Salesforce Development Day 41. Today's agenda is goes with the previous session overview, and we'll talk about the custom setting and navigation steps to create a custom settings, and what is the differences between the custom setting versus custom object. And if time permits, we'll talk about the custom metadata and differences between the custom metadata versus custom settings. And then we'll probably see the lead conversion process. If we have a time today, we'll talk about the lead conversion process. Otherwise, we'll take it tomorrow. So today is custom settings, custom metadata topic. So last class, we have been implementing the triggers. Right. So last class, we have implemented the trigger on the account trigger. Now this is whenever the industry equal to null, or if it is a fax equal to null or a website equal to null, then we are implementing this logic. Right. So for example, if I go here, account, in the account, if I open any existing record, so this logic is before insert and before update. Now if I go to the account, in this account, no, fax is not there, right? So if I try to save this record, it will give me error saying that fax is mandatory. But let's assume that I want a specific user. I want a specific user to be. So a specific user, for example, let's say that for specific user, we do not want to execute this logic. That means, for example, I have a system admin. For system admin or my user, we do not want any implementation, like I do not want to execute this validation tool from the trigger. That means bypass the validation for a specific user. If I want to bypass a user for specific user, ideally what we will do, I'll check who is the logged in user. I'll check who is the logged in user. So in order to check the logged in user, I'll check here user info dot get first name. Let's say get first name. Right. So whatever this first name is there, I'll store it into the string. I'm going to get the first name. If the first name is now for this user, who is this user? April batch. Now let's see the first name of this user. April. So if first user is not equal to April, then only execute the business logic. That means I wanted to bypass it for the April user. For the April user. Now, whatever the before update or a before insert logic is there. So this logic, we wanted to execute it only for other users, not for the April user. That means I wanted to bypass the April user. I do not want to apply any logic to the April user. Now in that case, what we will do, we will check the user info dot get first name, and then I'll check if it is not equal to April. Then I'll click on save here. Now it is going to bypass my validation. That means my trigger validation will not execute. Now this is for single user. Let's assume that if I have a multiple user, then I'll keep on adding here like a Sachin, and so UN not equal to, let's say, maybe Sushma. So these are the keep on I have to add. So that means these are the users I wanted to bypass the validation. These are users I wanted to bypass the validation. Now, if I want to bypass the validation for multiple users, it is so difficult to maintain here. It is so difficult to maintain here. So what we can do is we can create a custom setting. the concept we have in the Salesforce called custom settings. So custom settings are similar to the custom object or a tables that enables the application developers to create a custom set of data. Now there are two types of a custom setting, list custom setting and hierarchy custom setting. There are two types of custom settings, list and hierarchy. List is nothing but data can be accessible in the entire organization. Hierarchy is data can be accessible by the based on the user or a profile. That means based on the user or based on the profile, if you want to access the custom settings, then you will go for a hierarchy. Or if you by default everybody in the organization should be accessed, then you will go for a list custom settings. Take a notes of it. Once you are done taking the notes, done taking the notes. So let's move on. Custom settings. Now let's create one of the custom setting here. Now in order to create a custom setting, go to the setup and search for a custom settings. Let's search for a custom settings. Now click on the custom settings. Use these custom settings to create and manage the custom data at the organization or a profile or user level. Custom setting data is stored in the application cache. So whatever the data is there, can be stored into the cache memory. The application cache is there. In that cache, it can be stored. Now click on the new button. Let's create one custom settings. Now for creating the custom settings, I'll say here trigger access. Object name is also trigger access. And do you want to have it visibility protected or a public? Protected is nothing but only restricted to the whoever is the user is created, that user. If it is a public, that means everybody should be able to access. In that case, what we will do is we can create a public. So let's create a public. Click on the save. Now here the custom setting is created and the API name is __C. Setting type is hierarchy and visibility is public. Now there are no fields here. Now what you can do is you can give the trigger name or a method name. Now in order to create that, I'll just create a text. Now let's say here name. So this is the name of the trigger and the length, let's give it as a 30. Click on next button. It is similar to the whatever the custom fields we are creating, it exactly same. Just a second. Here, one of the field is name is created. Now I'll create another field. Let's say active is the checkbox. So let's say here checkbox and click on the next button. Now let's say here I'll click on the checkbox. On next button, click on save. Now like this, how many fields can I create it in custom settings? We can create maximum 300 fields per custom settings. We can create 300 settings per custom settings. Now right, so what I have done is clicked on the custom setting and create a new button. So once you click on this new button, you have to give a label, object name, setting type. Now setting type is by default, it is hierarchy. If you want to enable it, now search here, schema settings. Now in the schema settings, here we'll have a manage the list custom setting type. Manage list custom setting type. If you enable this, enable it and just refresh this page. Once you refresh, like now let's click on the new button. Now it is a setting type is enable. So if we have to enable, setup, search for a schema settings and then enable the manage list custom settings. If you enable the manage list custom settings, you can see that list is nothing but you can create it list. For example, I'm creating the list for the, let's say, product information. I'm just creating it, product information. Object name is also same, product information. Click on the save. So this is the list, and before that, whatever we have created, that is a hierarchy. So both are same here. Custom settings. Now trigger access is a hierarchy, and the production information is list. Now once we create a object and field, field is also __C. Field is also __C. So once we create a object and build, now we have to create a records in the custom settings. Now we have to create a records in custom settings. Click on this manage. When you click on the manage, we can click on the new button. Now it is going to ask you the location or user. Do you want to go with the profile and user? Because hierarchy custom settings are based on the user and profile. List is everybody can access in the organization. Let's say user. Now I wanted to say this user. Now let's say user April batch. Now if you want to give this method name, you can give the method name or the class name, account trigger, and then check. So this is user level. Now I have created the one record in the custom settings. We'll go to the trigger access. Now if I click on the manage, now I can see there is a one record. Similarly, if you want to create another record, you can click on the another records also. If you want to go for a profile, you can go for a profile also. Let's say I'm selecting another user here. Let's say Messi, and this is the name of the class, and click on the checkbox. If you do not want to enter the name of the class, that should be fine. You can also always go with the location and the checkbox. Now we have created the custom settings. So in the custom settings, we can create a 300 fields per custom settings, and custom object records cannot be shared. You cannot share the records with another person. You cannot share the records with another person. Now, what are the records we have created in the custom setting? I do not have a share button. And also, once we create the records, we only have a edit, delete, and view button. Edit, delete, and view button. Right? So there is nothing called as a sharing button. We don't have any sharing button. Now there are some storage limitations with the custom settings. Organization wide, maximum you can have a 10 MB storage. That means the data, fields, everything. 10 MB storage is the one. So one Salesforce license will have a 1 MB. So 10 MB storage will be divided like a, for one user, it's a 1 MB allocated for 1 MB. Like that, if I have a 5 users, 5 MB. Like that, if I have a 10 users, 10 MB. So this is the maximum, it will go to the 10 MB. Now if it is more than 10 licenses I have, 15 licenses, still it will go for a 10 MB. Right, so before the 10 licenses, for each license, it will be occupied the 1 MB. But if it crosses the 10 licenses and if it goes beyond the 10, now it will be still 10 MB. Take a notes of it. Let's move on. So custom setting, list custom settings can be accessed through the Apex, Visual Force, Web Services APIs. Hierarchy custom settings, access to the Apex via Visual Force, Web Services APIs and formula fields. Now let's see the syntax for the custom settings. Whatever we have implemented the custom setting, how can we access the custom settings? So in order to access the custom settings, we need to specify the map of string, comma, custom setting object name, and the object name equal to custom setting name dot get all. So example, let's say map of string, comma, whatever the custom setting object name is there, API name, you need to specify the object name and CS map equal to custom object dot get all. Now let in get all is nothing but everything, whatever is available in the custom object, everything gets accessed. Now, in case if you want a specific instance is nothing but now if you want to get all the records in the custom settings, like what are the records we have, all the records we wanted to get. In that case, we will go for a custom settings and get all the information. If you want to go for a specific instance, then you will choose a specific instance here, April batch. Only April batch record we wanted to get it. Right, so you have a 10 records in the custom setting. Out of 10 records, you wanted to get only the first one, which is a April batch you wanted to get it. So in that case, what you will do is you will be able to get it using the get instance, and you need to pass the user information. Now let's see that. Now if I go to the developer console, in the developer console, debug, open execute anonymous. Now here, let's say, now I wanted to capture the custom settings. So what is the custom settings name? This is the custom settings name. Now here trigger access is the custom setting. Trigger access is the custom setting. Now let's copy this. Go to the developer console, map of. Now map of, you need to use the map of string, comma, trigger access. Let's say here, I'm just giving the access, T access equal to new. Now I'm going to specify here. Now instead of new, directly you can give the trigger access dot get all. Get all. Now that means you are going to get so all the records. Now here I'm going to say here T access map. So let's say system dot debug t-access map. I'm going to execute this record. Execute the highlighted record. What is the error it's saying? The syntax is whatever the object name is there, the dot get on. So trigger access is the one.
Trigger access we chosen as a hierarchy. No.
Yeah, it's in hierarchy. Now let me show you in the developer class. Like in the trigger, instead of the username, what I'll do is I'll comment out this code. I'll comment out this code, and I'm going to specify here map of string comma trigger access. Let me copy the custom setting name. Custom setting name here, and then we are going to specify equal to. Let's specify the name here, t-access modifier or t-access map. And custom setting name dot. You can use the get all, or else let's say that I wanted to get for the specific user. That means specific user information, I wanted to get it. So let's say here instead of map, I'll just take the trigger. I'm not getting all the records, only single record I'm going to get it. So if you are getting the single record, get instance. Now here I'm going to pass the user info dot get user ID. Get user ID. Right, so this is the data that I'm storing there. Now, let's say here, we just keep the T map. Now, if the T map dot, so we have a checkbox. I'm going to check here T map dot checkbox. What are the checkbox is there? If it is equal to true, if it is equal to true, then I'm going to execute the logic. So that means if custom setting data is like if I have a manage, if it is a true, then only execute the validate whatever the trigger logic is there, execute the trigger logic. Otherwise, do not execute the trigger logic. Do not execute the trigger logic. Now, instead of getting the username like this, what I'm doing is I'm getting the user ID from the custom setting. Now, in the custom setting, I have a April badge. So that is the based on the user ID, we are going to get the information. Now, get the user ID. If the checkbox is true, then only execute the logic. Otherwise, do not execute the trigger. Now, if I say here, now click on the edit button and click on save. Now the validation rule will be displayed. Now, if I say here in the custom setting, April batch, now I'm going to uncheck the checkbox. If I click on this, uncheck the checkbox, click on the save. Try to execute it again. Now the logic, it will not be executed. What are the trigger logic is there? Trigger logic will not be executed. So that's how we will check in the real time. So in the production, whenever you wanted to switch off the trigger, if you want to switch off the trigger, now what you will do? Now, instead of checking the get user ID here, you will check whether my custom settings in the custom settings, if I have a value, we need to specify the name. Now I need to get the trigger name. Now if the trigger name is equal to, what are the trigger name is there? Is the trigger name is equal to this one, and if this checked equal to 2, then what we will do is if it is a true, then we will execute it. Otherwise, it will deactivate it. So in the production, we always check the details. In the production, what we do is we simply implement a custom settings. Using the custom settings, we will do the deactivate, activate, we will do it. So let me show you that. Let's say here, now I'm going to create a one more. Let's say I'm going to create a list. I'll not go for a user or a profile. So organization wise, we wanted to deactivate it. If we wanted to deactivate organization wise, now let's say here trigger setting. It's a trigger setting public, click on the save. And create a name. Name is the text field. Or let's say I'm just going to create a text which is a active checkbox. Active checkbox. Has to be a checkbox. Go to the previous. Click on this checkbox. Click on the next button. Uncheck. Initially, it should be unchecked. Now click on save. Now if I click on the manage, click on the new record. Name is, I'm going to specify the name. Name is, what are the trigger name is there, you can provide the trigger name. And then checkbox equal to true. Click on save. Now this is trigger name and the active checkbox. If it is active equal to true, then we will try to execute the logic. If it is not true, then we will not execute the logic. So how we are going to write that? So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all the records. Let's say map of string, comma, what are the custom setting name is there. Let's go to the custom settings. Setting is the custom setting. This is the trigger setting. Let's say this is trigger active map equal to. Now I'm going to specify this. What are the custom setting name is there? Custom setting dot get all. Now once I get all the information, now I'm going to check if the active map, if the active map dot get of the specific field is active checkbox. Active checkbox. Now whatever the, or else if you want to get the trigger name. Now I wanted to get the trigger name. What are the trigger name is there? The trigger name dot active checkbox. If it is a true, then only execute it. Otherwise, do not execute. Otherwise, do not execute the trigger. Now let's click on save. Active checkbox. Click on save. Right, so now if I enable the checkbox of this, now I have already enabled the checkbox of account trigger. That means if it is a true, then execute the trigger. Whatever the trigger logic is there, execute the trigger logic. When it is executed, the trigger logic. Now if I disable this, that means do not execute the trigger logic. Now click on this save. Now, by using the custom settings, we can enable or disable the trigger logic. In the production, what we will do is in the production, by using the custom settings, we will enable and disable the triggers. Now, we have already seen the navigation steps. Now the differences between the custom settings and custom object, custom settings and custom object. Now in the custom object, all the custom field types supported, right? So we can create any custom field, I can create it. Whereas custom settings, no relationship. I cannot create a relationship fields, or I cannot create a pick list, or I cannot create a long rich text area. Now if I go to the custom settings, in the custom settings, let's open one of the custom setting and let's create a new field. No, I cannot create a relationship field like a lookup, master, nothing. I cannot create it. And I cannot create a rich text area. I cannot create a rich text area. Rich text area is not available. Also, pick list field, multi-pick list, I cannot add. Pick list field, multi-pick list, we cannot add it in the custom settings. Now, records are updated by users. What are the records are there? All the records are updated by the users in the custom object. Whereas in the custom setting, records are updated by admin developers. What are the admin are there? Only the admin or a developer, only two members can be accessed. Admin or a developer can modify it, or internal team in the client side. Now, custom objects stored in the database. Similarly, custom settings are stored in the cache. Custom settings are stored in the cache in memory. Whereas custom object is it's stored in the database. And when we are storing in the cache, the limit is 2 GB. Custom settings, when we are storing in the cache, it is a maximum 2 GB can store into the cache memory. And custom objects require the lookup or a master detail relationship to reference from the one object to another object. Whereas custom settings, we do not have any relationship fields. Now take a notes of it. Let me know once it is done taking the notes. Taken the notes? Done? Is anybody taking the notes or shall I move on? Let's move on. Next one is a custom metadata. Like a custom settings, we also have a custom metadata. Now, custom metadata, when I'll be using it. So custom settings are the scenario for the custom settings are to disable the triggers or to enable the triggers. We use a custom settings. Now, whereas custom metadata, we also have a concept called custom metadata. So custom metadata is also similar to the custom object or custom settings, but in the custom metadata, it stores about the data will be stored all about the data. So here the term metadata is nothing but a data about data. So that means metadata is stored for the only data we can store the information, and custom metadata API names always ends with underscore MDT instead of underscore C in the API name. Now let's see. Now let's take a scenario for the custom metadata. So for custom metadata, let's assume that on the account, now here on the account, we have a, now I'm going to create a location. So let's assume that in the account field, let's click on the pane. Now in the account field, I'm going to create a two fields. One is a location and another one is a address. One is a location and another one is a address. Now location is a pick list field. Location is pick list field and here we have a address. Now in the location, now I'm going to specify here Hyderabad, Chennai, and maybe Delhi or Gujarat. I'll take any of these three. Now, whenever I select a location, default address should be shown here. There is a default address should be shown. For example, if I select a Hyderabad, then it should show only the Hyderabad related information. Address, it should shown in the, if I select a Hyderabad, this is the address should be shown in the address. Okay, so that means the default address should be shown. Now, if I select a Delhi by default Delhi address should be shown. If I select a Gujarat default address should be shown. So in this scenario, now how I'm going to do it? Using the metadata, I'm going to do it. Now let's say I'm going to create a new custom metadata. Now custom metadata is also similar to the custom object, similar to the custom object. Now let's say here, I'm going to create a new custom metadata. Let's say I'm going to create it address location. Well, I'll take it as a address locations and click on the save. I'm going to create a here. Let's say I'm going to create a field. Say I'm going to create it office address. Office address is a, let's take the long text area. Click on the next button. Office address. Click on the next button. And let's click on save. Click on the manage address location and I'm going to create a new record. Let's say label. Label is a, let's take Hyderabad. If it is a Hyderabad location and office address is, this is the office address. Click on save. If I'll clone it and I'll take the another address, default address, let's say Delhi. On save. And then also I'll take the Gujarat default address. Clone it. Now click on the save. Now we have created a 3 records in the custom metadata. Address location is the custom metadata. In this custom metadata, we have created the 3 records. These 3 records are Delhi, Gujarat, Hyderabad. Now let's see how can we call this from the account. Now in the account, let's take the scenario is whenever we are updating the record, that time I wanted to update the address location. Now let's go to the developer console. Now in the same trigger, now here we have a before update. Now in the before update, now I'll mention here if trigger dot is before and trigger dot is update. If it is a is before and if it is a is update, then I'm going to write a logic. No, here the logic is we are going to get the records, right? So metadata information, I need to get it. But before getting the metadata information, I need to look through the current record. What is the current account record? So in order to look through that per account, ACC dot trigger dot new. Trigger dot new. Now if it is a trigger dot new, then I'm going to check here. Did I create a field? Address field I did not create it, right? Address and location and address I have not created. So let's create the fields here. Setup. Let's go to the object manager. Object manager and click on the account. Now I'm going to create a 2 fields here. Now one is pick list field. Let's click on the new and click on the pick list field. Next, let's say location. And I'm going to select the enter the values. Let's say Hyderabad, Delhi, Gujarat. Now click on the next. Now this is the pick list field. And click on the next button, click on save. Similarly, I'm going to create another field to store the address information. Click on the new. Long text area rich. No, long text area, not the rich text area, long text area. And here I'm going to specify the address. And click on the next button. And click on the next button. And let's say save. Here I'm going to use the record. Let's refresh the record. Click on the detail section. We have two fields. One is the location and another one is a address. Now let me modify the page layout. Page layout. What is this page layout? By default, it might be account. Now here I'm going to modify the address. Account layout. Now this my individual person layout, this page layout. Yeah, this is the individual person layout. Now here I'm going to specify the location and then address. Address, I'm going to move it on top. Click on this save. Refresh. Click on the office location, it takes some time. But anyway, we have a location and address, we have a two fields. Now, whenever we update a location, automatically the address will be populated with the default value. Now, whenever I update a location here, click on the edit button and click on the location Hyderabad, Delhi, Gujarat. If I click on the Hyderabad and click on the save button, what should happen? The address should be default. Whatever the default address is there, it should be shown. Now, in the metadata, we have already implemented the scenario, right? So let's go to the developer console. Now here I'm going to check if ACC dot. Now we have a address field. Now just now we have created, so it won't be there. Fields. Now let's check if my location is not same as current one. If location is not same as the previous one, that means trigger dot old map. I need to check the trigger dot old map dot get. I'm going to check the ACC dot ID and we'll check the location. If it is a not same, that means my previous location and current location not same. In that case, what I am going to do is I'm going to get the details from the metadata, right? So in the metadata, I have a metadata. So this is my metadata. And let's go to the developer console, metadata dot. I'm going to get the instance of address. Now here, the office address. Let's click on manage. Whatever the, based on this value, I am going to get this information, right? So let's go to the developer console, metadata dot get instance. I'm going to get instance ACC dot location. And for this office address, what are the office addresses there? I'm going to get that office address. Now let's go back. Now let me find out the API office address. Now go to the developer console, office address. From the metadata, directly I'm getting the office address information, and then I need to store this information into the account. So for that, what I'm going to do is account ACC equal to account, new account. See, this is also ACC. Let's say this one is A. Now account A equal to new account. Now I'm going to specify here A.id equal to ACC.id. A.id equal to ACC.id, and whatever the address I'm getting it, I'm going to store it inside the dot. We have a office address. Now this is the address equal to address location metadata dot get instances. Account A equal to new account and A.id equal to ACC.id. ACC.id. A.address equal to address location metadata dot get instance location dot office address. Then I'm going to store entire information into the one list. So for that, I'm going to create a list of account, list of account, ACC list equal to new list of account. ACC list dot add A. ACC list dot A. Now here, finally we'll close this information, and I'm going to say here if this is not empty, if it is not empty, update ACC list. Update ACC list. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and see that. Now go to the account. Now let's say I'm going to modify the location. Location equal to Hyderabad. Now, right now the address is empty. Click on save. Now it is giving me the error. Self-reference. Self-reference it is giving. Now that means it should be after. Now, did I implement after or before? Let's take this as a after. Up I'm going to write after update. Let's click on save. The location is Hyderabad and the address is automatically updated the Madhapur, Hyderabad. Whatever I have provided in the metadata, that the same data address is displaying it. Delhi, click on the save. And it is updated to the Delhi address. If I give a Gujarat, it will update the Gujarat address. Click on save. Now there is a null pointer exception in the 37 line. What is the 37 line? Let's remove this and click on the save. Now let me update back to Hyderabad. It is updated. So basically the custom metadata is to, if you want the data to be managed. So when we use the custom metadata, like when you wanted to maintain the data and the data never changes frequently. And the data never changes frequently and it is not based on the user input. That means whatever the data stored in the custom metadata, it is a fixed data. That those are the default data which is available. Now, so far we have seen the custom settings and custom metadata. Now, what is the differences between the custom settings and custom metadata? Custom settings are also similar to the custom object. You can either create a list based or the hierarchy based in the custom settings. Whereas the custom metadata, in custom metadata, it does not support the hierarchy type. Only it is like it does not have a specific to user or a profile. It does not have in the custom metadata. Custom setting data cannot be deployed using the package or a metadata. It cannot be deployed using the either package or a metadata change set. So that means whatever the custom settings we are implementing and whatever the records we are creating in the custom setting, data cannot be deployed to the another OR. Whereas custom metadata can be deployed. It is easily deployed and manageable in the one OR to another OR. Custom settings do not support the relationship. Whereas custom metadata between the, like you can create a one lookup between the custom metadata object. Now let me show you that. Now here we have a custom metadata. Let's go back to the custom metadata. And in this custom metadata, let's click on this address location. And in this address location, now let's say here click on the new button. And in the new button, we have a relationship, metadata relationship. Now by clicking on this metadata relationship, what we can do is we can implement the relation to the another metadata. Like here I have a entity definition, right? So you can implement a one lookup relationship between the metadata and another metadata. Now custom settings are always suffixed with the __ c, like a custom object. Whereas custom metadata it has a suffix of __ metadata, MDT, right? So for metadata, it is __ MDT. For custom settings, it is __ c. And custom setting data is not visible in the test class. Whereas custom metadata is visible in the test class without see all data notification annotation. So basically in test classes, sometimes we write a see all data, because in case if I do not see the custom settings information directly, we cannot see in the test classes for the custom settings. If you write a see all data, maybe you will see the custom settings. But in the custom metadata, directly you can call the custom metadata in the test class without using the see all data. Without using the see all data annotation in the test class, you can directly call the custom metadata. And custom settings, you can perform the create, update, delete operation on the custom settings in Apex. Whereas in the custom metadata, you cannot perform the create, update or a delete operation on the custom metadata. Now this cannot be happen. You cannot update the data in the metadata because these are the fixed data. Whereas custom settings are, data can be changed here. And this data can be updated or created and deleted using the Apex. Now, these are the differences between the custom settings and custom metadata. Take a notes of it. And that's all for today.